Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. I am super tired right now. I just got finished with an intense Hollow Knight session on Twitch. I'm recording this Tuesday night. Look, I blistered my finger. I don't know if you can see it. You can't see it in this light. Darn. It's like right there. I blistered my middle finger playing video games, guys. This is my life. Oh, you can kind of see it there. It freaking hurts. Gonna have to put a Band-Aid on that. But I want to talk about something that came up on Twitter earlier today. I made a comment about empathy and how we as a society have collectively really screwed up because of some of the, lack of empathy I see online, but also in real life. And the responses I got were they inspired empathy in me. That's why I want to talk about it. If you like this sort of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. I've talked about empathy before. I think it's time for a refresher, but also add new stuff. Because one of the responses that really made me stop and think was that it isn't society as a whole that has created the problem. It is a particular subset of society. I am paraphrasing what the commenter said, but basically it's a subset of society that punishes people for having empathy that has gotten too powerful. And I actually think there are multiple subsets of society. There are trolls, obviously, that, concern trolling preys on people's empathy and in some cases mimics empathy to mock someone. Sorry, I unplugged my controller so there were less problems. So there's that. But I mean, trolls, you block or mute trolls. Trolls are fairly easy to deal with when you realize you're being trolled. And the nice thing about trolls is the best response is no response. You just stop talking to them, you mute or block them, done. Unfortunately, sometimes people have a hair trigger and they identify someone as a troll who's just upset, which is unfortunate. But, this brings me to sort of the second thing. When you think someone's trolling and they're not trolling because you can't believe anybody would care as much as someone seems to care about something, and then you realize, oh shit, they're serious. And this is the thing I end up feeling like something of an asshole about, because I assume someone is having a go at me because who could be this upset about something? And then I find out too late, no, this person was seriously upset about this and they are really angry at me. They think I'm an asshole. And from their point of view, I can see where they're coming from. But then I really don't know what to do. And I'll pose the question. I'll read this stuff on Feedback Friday. What's the appropriate response when you think someone is taking the piss and then you realize, oh God, no, they're serious. They actually are upset. And you've been treating them like they were having a go. I don't know what the correct response is to this. And this segs in, considering how tired and boss fight brain, a commenter named Otaku Cat said, Leanna, you've got the 10,000 yard stare going on, because I was like, boss fight. My blink rate did like crap. Yay, Gunners. I'd probably be half blind instead of a quarter blind right now if it weren't for the Gunners. I am not being sponsored. I bought these. But I should be sponsored. Sponsor me, Gunner. But I think this happens a lot online too. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong or not. That sometimes you get that someone is upset and you just don't know what to do. And sometimes every well-meaning thing you do in the world just somehow makes it worse. Either because someone is in the midst of like a huge trauma trigger, or, you know, they lack empathy. And so your attempts to empathize with them are falling on deaf ears because either one, they don't care, they just want to beat up on you, which is the easy one, or two, you're dealing with a person that tragically does not understand empathy. And there are three types of empathy a person could not understand. And the most common one is the easiest. There are three types of empathy: cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, and there's this one, I'm not sure I see this as a different kind of empathy. It's how you react to empathy, but what some people call compassionate empathy. But I think that's more of a reaction. It's not a type of empathy. It's what you do with the empathy. But these are systemic. This is my brain going, mapping, branching in my mind. Wait, it shouldn't go 3. It should go 2, and then 2 off the 2. Anyway, I'm digressing because brain does all the patterns. Boss fight. By the way, if you check out, I'll post it on YouTube. Well, something utterly bizarre came out of my mouth while I was playing Hollow Knight last night. And I happen to be live on Twitch, so check out the Hollow Knight clip today. Yeah, if you want to laugh. I have completely lost track of what day it is, what time it is. Oh, God. At least I've got proper fill light now in my shot. Yay. But a lack of or not enough cognitive empathy is what people with autism suffer from. Not being able to read how the other person is feeling, what they're reacting to. Some people call it mind reading. I think that's a bad term. There is a difference between recognizing someone as having a feeling and assuming why. Recognizing someone having a feeling is good. Assuming why, that can get you into trouble. It's well-intentioned, but I don't think people should mind read. You should face read, which is exactly what people with autism have trouble doing, right? Like, you see that, 7 different universal expressions? Could be 5. Maybe my hand was right, my brain was wrong. But it's like happiness, sadness, contempt, fear, anger, disgust. And I'm forgetting one. Maybe it's only 6. Anyway, there are certain universal facial expressions. And some people are very, very good at picking. It's a spectrum, right? Like, some people are awesome at picking up on them. They can read every little twitch. The problem these people get into is jumping to conclusions about why someone is feeling, is showing that, which happens on the internet through words. The best story I heard about this came from a cop friend of mine who noticed somebody was acting off in an investigation. We'll call it a murder investigation for the purposes of this story. I don't remember what it actually was, but they noticed somebody was acting cagey, right? Like they were hiding something. They were not being forthcoming and truthful. And upon questioning, it turned out it wasn't because they had anything to do with the murder. It was because they had a marijuana grow up in their garage. That's what, those are the sorts of pitfalls. That's an obvious, like, extreme, but this happens in law enforcement all the time. Somebody's acting cagey, they did it. Not necessarily they're acting cagey, they could be afraid of the person who did it. And this is why mind reading, it's important not to do. The problem is that so many people mind read that they get frustrated when you don't do it. A bunch of you are probably going, like, they think about their own relationship and someone expects you to mind read. That is on the other person. It's your responsibility to be aware of another person's feelings. It's not your responsibility to be able to know why they're upset. Sometimes people don't even know why they themselves are upset. They sometimes need time to work through it. But this is an issue right off the bat, right? Because if someone has autism or aren't particularly astute, that cognitive empathy part, that knowing what reactions someone is having can be extremely difficult. And if someone has autism, there's nothing they can really do about it. Behavioral therapy can teach someone appropriate responses once they know what's going on. But I mean, I think this is why a lot of people on the spectrum like computer code, because it puts out what you put in. There's none of this guesswork. They need to know the variable to respond to before they respond. And sometimes they can, and trust me, I do this with social niceties. I know that people do certain things, like you're expected to say something even though it's not totally honest. The one that bugs me is the people, and I won't do this, the people who, when they say I'm sorry, you're supposed to go I'm sorry too. I will not do that, because the minute you start apologizing when you're not sorry, people can't know that you mean an apology when you say it. And that's just fucking manipulation when someone is apologizing, expecting something in return. But we all know somebody who that is like a social nicety that they grew up with. I think it's crap, but in those moments you have to sort of decide, do I play along to keep the peace, or do I stick to my guns? Maybe the reason I get along with people on the autism spectrum is because I tend to stick to my guns. And so I enjoy the frankness of someone with autism more than the people who play that. Okay, I'm trying to learn my Karens and my Beckys and my Stacys. Is that a Becky? Because that's kind of a basic thing, right? That's a Becky thing, right? The I'm sorry too. Because a Karen wouldn't, maybe a Karen would. Is that a Becky or a Karen? I know it's not a Stacy. What is that? Or maybe it is a Stacy. I don't know. I don't know these things. But moving on to the next type of empathy. This is something everyone can do. When it's a mirror neurons thing, and I guess there are some people with like traumatic brain injury or something like that wouldn't be able to do this, but when you know somebody is feeling something, you feel what the other person's feeling. Hello, Momo. Like, Momo's not feeling well, so I feel bad. Oh, no, Momo, okay. Momo, I'll finish the video and then I'll go see what you want, okay? You want dinner and then couch time. Okay, buddy. The issue where people get sort of crippled with emotional empathy, feeling what another person is feeling, is they can't handle it. They become overwhelmed, and they either shut down or run away. And this is why I don't think compassionate empathy is a separate thing. I think compassionate empathy is a way of combining the two other types of empathy to get a useful solution to the empathic minigame that we're engaging in this given thought experiment. But some researchers insist that compassionate empathy is something different. Basically that you don't just understand what a person's feeling. You don't just feel it alongside them. You're moved to help. I don't think being moved to help is the right instinct there. You're moved to care. You're moved to express caring. You shouldn't try to fix someone's problem for them unless they ask for a problem to be fixed. And this is why I think we need to talk about this, because, if you Google this stuff and look it up, you'll get, in my opinion, what is a lot of bad advice. I'm sure a bunch of guys are going, yeah, okay, I've heard this before. I don't want you to listen to my problem. I want you to support me with my problem. I don't want you to fix my problem. I think this is where a lot of well-meaning help that comes across as condescension or mansplaining comes up. Some people are just dicks. And this is the problem. Sometimes cognitive empathy fails and you mind read in the wrong way. This is one of the reasons why I'm not real big on calling cognitive empathy mind reading. Cognitive empathy is the ability to assess that there could be these reasons that, they'd be feeling this way. because you can cut off some really good potential friendships by assuming someone is being condescending when they're just trying to be really helpful. That's where their compassionate empathy, which is they seem to be struggling. I wouldn't want to be struggling. I'm feeling frustrated for them because they're frustrated because they're struggling. In their position, I would want advice. That looks identical to mansplaining, which is, well, you obviously don't know this. I have to tell you this. They look the same, right? The only way to tell is if you check if you care to check, your immediate reaction of don't mansplain me and, ask, what are you trying to do telling me this? And this is the thing that makes this sort of thing so difficult. No one is born naturally good at this stuff. This is a level up thing. This is a get good thing. These are learned skills, which on the one hand, if you're not good at this stuff, it's not that you're naturally not good at it. You just haven't been given the tutorial level to learn the skills to do it. And a lot of people learn these things by sort of copying, or they sort of learn by observation. They see somebody who's good at it, and they sort of emulate the person who's good at this process, at the combination of empathy and compassion. And part of it is that if you don't practice emotional awareness and self-compassion, you can't do it with anyone else, because that's where you get overwhelmed and need to run away from other people having a bad time, as opposed to being able to be with someone and be truly present with them while they're going through a bad time. And everybody has, that I'm all out of spoons phrase. Everybody has that moment where they just have nothing left in the tank and they cannot be there for other people. And this is the problem a lot of introverts get into. Introverts are usually the one that just sits there and listens. And when when we hit that introvert overload and we're just like, everybody fuck off, extroverts don't understand it. and so, you can be great every day, but that day. I had one of those days. I woke up way too early. I was tired all day. I was like, I kept smashing my foot and bumping into things when I was moving stuff around for boss fight stuff. I was done with today by like 3:00. I'm recording this yesterday, obviously. And then I had to do Twitch and I was like, oh, fuck. I have the emotional maturity to go, all right, I need to do something to get myself out of this headspace and into, hey, let's have fun with a game that's really hard and is going to kick my ass. One is being mentally prepared to have my ass kicked, and boy, did I have my ass kicked by Hollow Knight. But then I Zelda wanted to play. Zelda's in the co-pilot seat. That is Zelda, right? Yes. And so I played with her, and she was hilarious and jumping all around, not a care in the world. And so that kind of, okay, this day got better. And then I ate some cookies, and I was good. I drank too much coffee, which was a mistake. Right now I have a blister on my finger. I'm the Beatles of video games. Yeah, I had the presence of mind to get myself out of that bad place. That is a skill, because that's trial and error, right? And the problem is I cannot expect someone half my age to have this skill, right? I can't expect most people my own age to have this skill. Let's face it. You have to be able to devote the resources to learn this stuff. And not everyone can. Not everybody is given the basic tools. Like when you're, come from a family of origin that's abusive or neglectful, you are so far behind. Like, you're living life on hard mode, right? And a lot of people in gaming are living life on hard mode. They come from families of origin who did not give them the nurturing environments to foster the skills that help you with everything in life. And that fucking sucks. It's not fair. And it's not your fault but it is your challenge going forward. And that's part of the reason I'm making this video. I want people to know, because so much of this narrative is, oh, if you've been, harmed by somebody, if you have been a victim of abuse or neglect, that's it. That's a label. That's your identity now. It's not true. Okay? You end up, because you know what it's like to play a game on hard mode, right? You get your ass kicked. Your progress is slower. But when you finish a game on hard mode, you are an exponentially better player than somebody who played on normal mode or easy mode, right? And that's the good news about coming from a bad start in life. You have the opportunity to unlock God mode, go on to legendary mode, tackle those higher difficulties. If you can develop your skills in this regard, you can be goddamn amazing. Because you know what? You're being conscious about it. You deliberately develop those skills. Even if you're on the autism spectrum, okay? I have seen utterly profound insights come out of people on the autism spectrum. It is such a cool way of looking at the world. And I always feel selfish for benefiting from that, because I know that, if you're on the spectrum, like I said, life is hard mode, right? You are on hard mode. But so many people who have done sort of the behavioral therapy, they're so, what is it, ABA therapy? But they're so compassionate and they're so considerate. I mean, I really think that's part of the spirit of gaming, where people are so giving, in part because they needed help and somebody gave them help. Or they needed help and nobody in their real life gave them help, but they played a game where people were helpful, or they could be the hero, and they want that kind of fantasy to become real, right? And I really have observed a generosity of spirit among gamers that I have not seen anywhere else in the world, certainly not in the charitable sector. You will never find greedier people than people who work with charities. Because it's all, give me money, give me your time, give me your skills. But there's always an ask, right? You're never the smart people give to get, but only if you're networking with other people who give to get, because then everybody helps each other instead of everybody just taking. You got to be top level for that. Working your way up the ladder, everybody's gimme. They don't want to give anything. But that's the thing that people don't understand about gaming. And I know I've said this before, but this is in a different context. People don't understand that sort of protective barrier, which is no, fuck off. That external crusty asshole shield that gamers exude to the rest of the world. But once you're in, once you've sort of permeated that defense, and it's one of those counterintuitive bosses where you can't hit, you have to just sort of take damage and heal, or shield, or even cast healing. I remember there was a original Baldur's Gate expansion boss where you had to cast healing spells. It was this abyssal demon or something like that. You had to cast healing spells to defeat it. That's what you got to do to get in kind of the secret club with gaming. And that doesn't happen very often because it's a whole bunch of damaged people. And so I really think that setting an example of empathy and compassion is the best thing that prominent people in gaming could do. Now, of course, that's usually the exact opposite of what prominent people in gaming do, because usually if you're a prominent person, it's because you got really lucky really fast, because there aren't very many people like me still slugging away at this shit in my 40s. So people don't have the maturity to pass this sort of stuff on, to pay it forward. And that's why I think the brain drain and some of the workplace practices in gaming really suck. And this is what the industry is losing from that same kind of, remember I said the charities, it's all give, take, no give. The major game companies have to start giving more to keep people in the industry longer to pass on this sort of thing, because, job security does amazing things for people's compassion. And in the long term, yeah, you might not be running the sprint. You're not doing a 9-second 100-meter dash anymore. But game development, projects about games, even making like high quality videos, they're marathons. They're not sprints. These little things, these are sprints, right? But more like the 100-meter hurdles. But, in order to make anything really, really awesome, you've got to work together as a team for a lengthy period of time. And the only way you can do that is if you've got leaders who know how to be compassionate, so that people keep getting emotional and sort of energy fill-ups instead of just getting burned out. Of course, burnout is infamous in game dev, and it doesn't have to be that way. Even among YouTubers, anybody involved in gaming now, the truth is, I think gaming is actually doing better than the tech sector at large. The fact that, if you've been at like Facebook or Alphabet or something like that, or Twitter for 2 years, you've been around a long time. It's ridiculous. Silicon Valley is just messed up. But again, you've got a lot of very smart people in Silicon Valley who don't have emotional wisdom. They don't have the empathy skills. They don't have the compassion skills. And so everybody's just sort of muddling along. Everybody's a wizard. Nobody's a cleric. I use D&D all the time. You need 4 types of people in your team to, wow, my finger looks bent. Look at that. That's the blister. Dang. But you need the fighter, the person, the extroverted person who can go out there and take the hits for the rest of the team so everybody else can either backstab or cast spells. You need the rogue or the bard who comes up with the sort of lateral thinking, creative solutions to things, because they can't go at it like the fighter can. They have to sort of get around the back and do quadruple damage. That's how you innovate, But then you need the wizard who could figure out how to execute the rogue's fucking crazy ideas, but can't take the hits that the fighter can, because you need the fighter, because everybody else needs time to work on this stuff. But then you need the cleric who's healing everybody as it goes. And most game dev teams are missing their cleric. Most media companies are missing those clerics. They got plenty of rogues. They got fighters who tend to burn out because you can only tank so long without healing. They've got a bunch of wizards who are super duper smart and can do these crazy, complex things, really, really good coders or wizards. But they need time to cast that spell, and they need to be able to concentrate. And when they are crazy stressed out and constantly being interrupted, they can't do that. That's why you need your fighters handling that stuff, and let the wizards wizard. Let them cast spells, let your spellcasters cast. But those clerics are super important, because they can't do, or their primary skill, they may be dual class, but everybody knows you play a dual class character, it takes longer to level up, right? So somebody could be a fighter cleric. Somebody, rogue clerics are less, but they're there. And wizard clerics, oh God, the skill points. Dungeons & Dragons is freaking brilliant. It's such an amazing system. But, the whole point is you need somebody checking in. This is what a good manager is supposed to do, but managers often aren't clerics. Managers are fighters, rogues, or mages who get promoted into a management position that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. They have to dual class, they have to multi-class and start all over again. Like shit. Oh, cure light wounds. Fuck. And so that healing, that checking in, giving the fighter buffs, giving the rogue time to figure out a distraction, giving the wizard time to wizard, that doesn't happen. And that's why teams burn out. That's why everything goes so crazy. That's why game sites think it's brilliant to write fighter pieces when they really want to be wizards. Like when you are writing a hot take, you are writing a piece that is drawing fire. That is a fighter class move, right? Most of the people doing this stuff aren't fighters. They are not prepared for that onslaught of aggro, right? And so they get knocked down. Like, you can't be a fighter if you've only got 8 hit points, right? And that's what a lot of these people writing about video games and making videos about video games happening. This is why they end up like mentally ill or depressed or burned out and all that stuff. We have to be open to different kinds of people, which is why you shouldn't mind read, because a fighter can't predict what a rogue is going to do and so on and so forth, right? You have to recognize people are different from you. You may not agree, you may not find it natural how people do things. But those skills are useful because that means they can do shit you can't. And, you know, the PYP thing, play your part, that's why I think multiplayer gaming is so important. People learn, stay in your lane, man. Do what you're supposed to do. Because again, if somebody who's a really great cleric, and this is my big, it's like a metaphor for what's wrong with fucking game dev. Not enough games award XP for support roles, right? You don't earn XP for healing, you only earn XP for dealing damage. So nobody wants to play a healer. I always played a healer in World of Warcraft because there was always a shortage of them. It's like, hey, I can do something. I'm not very good at this game yet, but I can do something useful. I can hang in the back and watch what everybody else is doing and heal. I don't level up very much, but I don't care about leveling up. You know, I am enjoying being useful. That's my big Tauren druid with big honking feet. I love the big honking feet on the Taurens. But we gotta start recognizing that all these roles are important. We need more extroverts, because too many wizards are trying to be fighters and they're getting knocked down. We need to appreciate the rogues, even though their methods might be kind of dubious. You need to keep them on the straight and narrow, but not too narrow, right? You got to let the wizards wizard. I have always felt awful for the game devs when I interview them. This is part of why I was good. I'd go in and cleric these wizards who clearly needed healing. And it's amazing how much developers would open up if you gave them a few kind words, if you played their demo. This is why I miss demos, or because then I can play it and I can go in to a developer interview with an honest compliment about what they've done. And I can show knowledge of subject and, hey, that was really cool how you implemented that, or I really like that feature. And that gives them a bit of a boost. And then you'll get more out of them from the interview because they feel appreciated. And they get excited. They get excited that someone else saw and understood what they did, you know? Because all that stuff takes a huge amount of thought. And that is the interview process. That is the role of the media that we don't get because everything's locked off because there's no fucking healers. So everybody's behind these freaking shields and they're just blasting magic missiles into each other. Nobody's dealing any damage, but everybody's getting really worn out. You're going through all your magic points and not doing fuck all. Cast haste. Done. But then you're tired, right? If you haven't played Dungeons & Dragons, I apologize. Please play Dungeons & Dragons because then all this stuff makes sense. This is the sort of stuff that this would be like my gaming TED Talk. This thing, I'm doing it right now. But we need more empathy and compassion in this space. And the only way to do it is to do it. And that doesn't mean that every so often, even if you're a cleric, you can't clobber someone in the head with a mace. You have to, right? Like, you have to defend yourself when it's appropriate. But so many people have been made to feel weak or ashamed because they cared. And so they're not connected to a huge source of power and skill that they actually have in spades. They would level up very, very, very quickly because they have the base stats to really excel at this. Like I said, playing a game on hard mode has its payoff. But they've been cut off from that through, basically negative operant conditioning. And So, and I'm interested to read your comments on this because I would like we need a cool name for something like the Cleric Project or something like that. But this is something I would like to try to develop somehow. Give people social permission, use those parasocial relationships that gaming develops to encourage healing powers, to encourage cleric stuff, people to play more as clerics, because it's really needed. Because I think the reason that everybody's so worn out and there's so many mental health problems is people aren't getting their healing spells, right? Let me know what you think. You know what's coming now. Oh, my mouse didn't power down while I was talking. Nice. This was a long one. If you like stuff like this, if you want to support content like this, if you want to, I don't know, maybe this will be my next big project, this sort of thing, but we can talk about it. We can talk about it as it goes forward. I believe strongly in it, but I need enough people, I need enough fighters to be like, you have my sword, and I need rogues and I need wizards to help with this sort of thing if you think it would help. But help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Shopkeepers are awesome too. Money's good. Okay, thanks for watching.